I never believed in second chances until the night my reflection started lying to me. That was the moment I realized my brother had stolen more than just our father's empire. He'd hijacked my goddamn soul. And as I stared into the mirror of that Fleabag motel bathroom in Cleveland, watching Jax's slack-jawed face smirk back at me with my own eyes, I made a vow that would burn everything down. I'd drag him into the hell he built, one twisted secret at a time. It started 6 months earlier, on a sweltering July afternoon in Akron, Ohio. The kind of heat that turns the asphalt into a blacktop skillet and makes every breath feel like swallowing tar. Our old man, Harlan Whitaker, had built Whitaker Steel from a rusted-out mill into a Fortune 500 beast, grinding his way up from the assembly line with fists like sledgehammers and a glare that could melt rebar. He wasn't the hugging type, affection was a weakness, he always said, but he'd clawed enough legacy for 2 sons to squabble over.
Me?
Remy, the quiet one who'd shadowed him through every board meeting, crunching numbers in the corner like a ghost. And Jax, the golden boy, all charm and backslaps, the one Dad paraded like a show pony at country club galas. We grew up in that sprawling brick McMansion on the edge of the Cuyahoga Valley, the kind with a 3-car garage stuffed with Cadillacs and a backyard that backed right up to the rusting bones of old factories. Summers meant fishing the polluted river, dodging the chemical tang in the air, while winters were blizzards that buried the world in white silence. Dad drilled into us that blood was thicker than the steel he forged. But Jax and I, we were oil and water from the jump. I'd fix his messes, covering for the joyrides in Dad's Lincoln that ended in ditch scrapes, or forging excuses for the truancy notices when he'd blow off school to chase skirts at the drive-in. He called it brotherly love, I called it survival. The betrayal hit like a freight train derailing in slow motion. It was the week after Dad's 60th birthday bash. A blowout at the country club with cigar smoke thick as fog and whiskey flowing like the Ohio River after a storm. I'd just closed a deal with a Chinese supplier that saved the company $10 million, quiet work. The kind that keeps the lights on. Jax? He'd been networking, which translated to schmoozing investors at strip clubs and snorting lines off mirrored trays. But that night, as the string quartet wrapped up Sweet Caroline, Dad pulled us into his study. The walls lined with leather-bound ledgers and faded photos of him shaking hands with senators. "Boys," he rasped, his voice gravel from 40 years of barking orders. "It's time we talk succession." He slid 2 folders across the desk. One stamped Remy, in crisp black ink. The other, Jax. Mine outlined a phased handover, me taking the CEO reins in 5 years. With Jax as VP of Operations, a safety net for his wild ass. Jax's? A consulting gig. Entry-level bullshit to keep him busy and out of jail. Dad's eyes locked on mine. That rare glint of pride flickering like a welder's torch. "You've got the head for it, son." "Jax. Well, he's got heart. But heart don't pay the bills." Jax's face twisted, not in shock but in something darker, calculation. He laughed it off, clapped me on the back too hard, and muttered, "Attaboy, little bro." But later, as we drove home in his cherry-red Mustang, the engine roaring like a chainsaw through the empty suburbs, he turned feral. "You think you're hot shit now? Dad's puppet strings are mine to cut." I brushed it off as booze talking. The kind of threat that evaporates with the hangover. God, was I wrong? 2 days later, the cops kicked in my apartment door at 3 a.m. Badges flashing like lightning in the hallway's fluorescent hell. "Remy Whitaker, you're under arrest for embezzlement and fraud." My laptop was seized. My phone yanked. And, before I could choke out a "what the fuck," they had me in cuffs, parading me past neighbors in bathrobes who whispered like it was the Salem witch trials. The charges? Siphoning $2 million from Whitaker Steele's offshore accounts. Falsified invoices. The works. Evidence? Emails from my address. IP traces to my router. Even a forged signature on a Cayman Islands wire transfer that matched my scrawl down to the loop in the R. I rotted in county lockup for 48 hours. The air thick with bleach and despair. Bunking with a tweaker who muttered Bible verses about the end times. My lawyer, a slick downtown shark dad hired, bailed me out. But the damage was nuclear. By morning, the Journal had splashed it across the front page. Whitaker heir in multi-million theft scandal. Dad's calls went to voicemail, Jax's too. Though I left a frantic one. This is bullshit.
Man.
Help me fix it. No callback. Just silence. Heavier than the steel girders Dad once slung. It turned out Jax had hacked my life like it was a shitty firewall. He'd paid a Ukrainian coder on the dark web $50,000 to plant the digital trail, proxies bouncing through my home IP. Deepfakes of my voice authorizing the transfers.
Why?
Leverage.
Dad.
In his paranoia, had a contingency in the will. Any felony conviction by an heir meant automatic disinheritance. Assets funneled to the loyal son. Jax didn't just want operations, he wanted it all. And to seal it, he'd buried the deepest cut. The crime I took the fall for wasn't his first rodeo. 10 years back, during our senior year at Kent State, Jax had botched a hazing prank, dumped a freshman off the dorm roof into a snowbank. Kid shattered his spine, sued the frat into oblivion. Dad hushed it with a 7-figure settlement. But Jax, he pinned the planning on me, the responsible brother who'd signed off on the event as pledge master. I'd carried that guilt like a rusted chain, never knowing it was his noose disguised as mine. Parole came quick, Dad's influence greased the wheels, but the boardroom was a slaughterhouse. Jax, in a suit sharper than a switchblade, presented the irrefutable evidence to the execs, his voice steady as he detailed my betrayal.
Dad.
Gaunt from the stress, his liver shot from decades of bourbon, just nodded, eyes dull as spent slag. Remy's out. Effective immediately. No trial. No appeal, just exile to the unemployment line, while Jax ascended like he'd been born to the throne. That's when the swap happened. Not some voodoo bullshit, but cold, hard science gone rogue.
Dad,
in his final months, had sunk Whitaker R&D cash into a black budget project, neural mapping for enhanced cognition. Think Neuralink on steroids, implant chips that sync brainwaves, letting execs download expertise straight into the gray matter. Jax, ever the guinea pig, volunteered for the beta test, a prototype rig in a basement lab under the Akron plant. But on the night of the implant, with Dad hooked to monitors and me lurking in the shadows, I'd snuck in to confront him, desperate for a lifeline. A power surge hit, like the grid burping after a thunderstorm. Lightning cracked the sky, and the world inverted. I felt it first, a white-hot spike behind my eyes, like God himself jammed a cattle prod into my skull. Then darkness, absolute and velvet. When I woke, strapped to the gurney, the mirror across the room showed Jax's face, his sharp jaw, his crooked nose from that bar fight in '09, his hazel eyes now wide with my terror. What the fuck? My voice, his voice, echoed tinny and unfamiliar. Across the room, in my body, Jax stirred, blinking with my blue eyes, a grin splitting my own lips. Holy shit, Remy. This is perfect. He'd done it on purpose. The surge? Sabotage. Jax had tampered with the failsafe, knowing the overload would scramble the mappings, swapping our neural imprints wholesale. Not just memories or skills, but essences. I was trapped in his husk, his faded tattoos itching under my skin, his chronic backache throbbing like a bad debt. He, strutting in my frame, my steady hands now his to wield, my unscarred lungs breathing easy.
Dad.
Comatose from the shock. Never woke to see the monster wearing his favorite sunskin. The docs called it a freak anomaly, buried it under NDAs thicker than the Iron Curtain. Jax spun the narrative. The disgraced embezzler, had attacked him in a jealous rage, botching the procedure out of spite. He played the victim card like a pro, parading my body through press conferences, voice cracking with feigned heartbreak. My brothers lost it.
Folks.
Pray for him.
Meanwhile,
I slunk out of the hospital in Jax's ratty jeans, his wallet holding $40 and a fake ID that screamed probation violation. No one believed the ranting Jax claiming a body swap sounded like meth-fueled delusion. Cops escorted me to a psych ward for evaluation, but I bolted at the first shift change, hitching a ride on I-77 toward Cleveland, the city lights blurring into a vengeful constellation. From there, it was guerrilla warfare in the shadows of the Rust Belt. I holed up in a no-tell motel off Euclid Avenue, the kind with hourly rates and roaches the size of quarters. Jax's body was a downgrade, shorter by 2 inches, with a gut from too many White Castles and a knee that popped like gunfire on stairs. But it had its edges, his street smarts, the ones I'd always envied, kicking in like muscle memory. I dyed his sandy hair black, grew a scruff that hid the family jawline, and started digging. First stop, the dark web forum where he'd hired the hacker. A few crypto drops and ghosted VPNs later, I had the logs, timestamps proving Jax's digital fingerprints all over my frame job. But revenge isn't a solo gig, it's a syndicate. I reached out to Lena, Jax's ex from back in the day, the one he'd ghosted after she got too clingy. She ran a dive bar in Parma, slinging Iron City beers to steelworkers with grudges deeper than the Cuyahoga. Over lukewarm pierogies in a back booth. I spilled it all, minus the swap, chalking it up to amnesia from the shock. Her eyes narrowed. Those green lasers that could spot a counterfeit 20 from across the room. That son of a bitch owes me alimony and a liver for what he did. Turns out, Jax had cleaned out her savings for his investments, then accused her of theft to dodge the courts. She was in fists and fury. No questions. Next, the whistleblower, Old Man Kowalski, Dad's retired CFO, living in a double-wide in Barberton, his pension barely covering the oxygen tank wheezing by his recliner. I'd always called him Uncle Kaz, the guy who'd slip me contraband comics during board meetings. He coughed up the family skeleton Jax had buried. The hazing cover-up wasn't just cash. Dad had leaned on the DA, a Whitaker donor, to bury the evidence. But Jax? He'd recorded it all, hidden cam footage of me approving the stunt as insurance. Your brother's a viper. Remy boy, Kaz wheezed, sliding over a dusty USB drive. Bites the hand that feeds, then sells the venom. Armed with dirt, I went analog, tail surveillance in Jax's beat-up Chevy, the one he'd left in impound after the attack. Watching me through binoculars from a stakeout across from the Whitaker estate felt like starring in my own horror flick. Jax in my skin, broader shoulders filling out my suits like they were tailored for a king. My easy smile now his weapon. He hosted power lunches at the Union Club, schmoozing Detroit execs with my baritone charm. while Dad withered in hospice, tubes snaking like accusations. The betrayal deepened with every glimpse. He'd moved his side piece, that gold-digging intern from accounting, into my old room, their laughter echoing through the open windows like salt in a wound. My first strike was subtle, a whisper in the wind. I leaked the embezzlement logs to an anonymous tip line for the plain dealer, framing it as internal whistleblower intel. The headline hit like a gut punch. Whitaker Steele scandal deepens. Forged trails point to insider sabotage. Jax's board panicked, stock dipping 5 points overnight. He retaliated by upping the psych profile on Jax. Petitions for involuntary commitment. PIs tailing his body, mine now, through Cleveland's underbelly. They cornered me once, in a rain-slick alley off Detroit Avenue. 2 goons in cheap windbreakers flashing badges from a private firm. Mr. Whitaker wants to talk. I clocked the first with Jax's surprisingly solid right hook. Bar fights had toughened those knuckles, then vanished into the night. Heart hammering like a drop forge. Tension coiled tighter as Dad's while reading loomed, set for a crisp October morning in the estate's library. Leaves turning blood red outside the French doors. Jax had consolidated power, purging disloyal execs, including Kaz, who retired early with a fat NDA. Lena fed me intel from a mole in HR. He'd rewritten clauses, ensuring any unstable heirs got zilch.
Me?
As the perpetrator, I was persona non grata, barred by court order. But I had to play Jax's arrogance, his blind spot for underestimating the loser brother. The night before, I broke into the estate under cover of a nor'easter, wind howling like banshees through the eaves. Jax's safe, combo from his high school locker, predictable as his pickup lines, yielded the original will, unaltered, plus the hazing tape.
Proof.
I slipped it into a burner phone, timing the upload for dawn. But as I crept out, footsteps echoed, Jax, in my body, padding down the hall in boxers,
Pistol in hand.
Our eyes met in the moonlight filtering through the blinds, his in my face, cold and triumphant, mine in his, feral with hate. Remy, he drawled, my voice twisting like barbed wire. Come to beg? Or finish what you started in the lab? I didn't run. Instead, I stepped closer, close enough to smell my own cologne on him, sandalwood and regret.
Nah, Jax.
Just tying up loose ends. Like how you framed me for that kid's fall. Or the offshore cash you laundered through Mom's old charity. His smirk faltered. Just a flicker. You think you're untouchable in my skin? Dad's, well, says otherwise. He lunged. But I was ready. Jax's body might be softer, but it moved like a cornered coyote. We grappled, crashing into a side table, antique vase shattering like glass thunder. The gun skittered away, fists flew, my knuckles splitting on my own jaw. It ended with him pinned, my forearm, his forearm, across his throat, gasping in my stolen breath. This ends tomorrow, I hissed. At the reading. Smile for the cameras, brother. I left him bruised and raging, slipping into the storm like a shadow. Dawn broke gray and unforgiving, the kind of Midwest morning where hope feels like a sucker's bet. The library buzzed with suits and notaries, air heavy with Old Spice and anticipation. I watched from the treeline, binoculars fogging in the chill, as the lawyer, dry as week-old toast, unrolled the scroll. Jax sat front row, legs crossed in my slacks, radiating smug. Then the hook dropped. The lawyer cleared his throat. To Jax Whitaker. Operational oversight. Murmurs rippled. But I had the mic, hijacked via Lena's TechWiz cousin, piping my voice through the estate's PA from a van 2 blocks out. Static crackled. Then me. Clear as a confessional. Ladies and gentlemen. Before we proceed, a word from the real Remy Whittaker.
Gasps.
Jax bolted up. My face, draining to ash. The screen flickered to life, projecting the leaked files, emails, transfers, the hazing tape playing in grainy horror, the freshman tumbling, my younger self nodding in the background, doctored, but damning. Then my pre-recorded face. Jax's mug staring earnest. Dad, don't you know? It's been Jax all along. The theft. The fall. The swap. He did it to bury me. Chaos erupted, lawyers shouting, board members dialing frantically, Jax snarling denials in my timbre.
Dad.
Wheeled in for the spectacle, his eyes sharpening one last time. Wheezed from his chair. Jax. You. Before slumping?
Gone.
Heart attack. The coroner said later. Jax fled the room. But not before the cops, tipped by my anonymous call, swarmed the drive. Tasers drawn. They hauled him in, still in my body, ranting about imposters to a judge who didn't give a damn. The swap? Never proven. Neural scans too proprietary. Bodies too identical under law. But the evidence stuck. Fraud. Assault. Manslaughter cover-up. He lawyered up with Dad's millions. But the board ousted him. Assets frozen pending investigation. Lena and Kez testified, painting him as the Viper. As for me, I vanished deeper, shedding Jax's skin for a new life in Seattle. Rainy anonymity where no one asks about Rust Belt ghosts. The will? It trickled to me eventually, laundered through trusts, enough to start over. But the twist, the one that keeps me up, staring at ceilings scarred by water stains? Turns out, the swap wasn't total. Flashes hit me sometimes, Jax's memories bleeding through, like oil slicks on water. His guilt over Mom's overdose, pills he slipped her during a fight. His terror of becoming Dad. And worse, mine to him. In quiet moments, I wonder if I didn't just steal back my life, I inherited his darkness too. Was it justice or just another betrayal? Hell if I know. But as I watch the sound from my crappy studio, waves chopping like accusations, I smile. Because in the end, blood's thicker than steel, but revenge? It's forged in fire. Unbreakable. The psych ward's stink clung to me like a bad tattoo, even weeks after the bolt. Chlorine and despair, mixed with the faint rot of overcooked institutional slop. I'd con my way out with a mumbled med adjustment. But the orderly's eyes lingered. Jax's rep as a loose cannon preceded him, courtesy of his bar tabs and bench warrants. Cleveland's underbelly welcomes strays like me. Though, the city chews up dreamers and spits out survivors. And I was learning fast how to blend into the grit. First order, survival kit. Jax's body ran hot, sweat beading under the threadbare hoodie I'd lifted from a laundromat dryer. His metabolism craved carbs, greasy spoons became my war rooms. Plates of biscuits and gravy fueling late-night scrolls through encrypted chats. I hit up Tor nodes from a public library terminal. The hum of fluorescent tubes overhead syncing with the paranoia buzzing in my skull. The Hackers Forum was a digital sewer. Usernames like Ghostbite and Shadowwire, trading exploits for Bitcoin. I posed as a mark with a grudge. Dangling bait. Need dirt on a frame job. Offshore trails. Ukrainian IP. Pays crypto. No traces. Ghostbite bit, greedy fucker. 24 hours later. A zip file dropped, server logs, chat transcripts. Even Jax's Venmo history to the coder, alias Volodymyr87. It painted the picture in binary blood. Jax initiating the hack 6 weeks pre-arrest. Scripting the deepfakes himself on company downtime. Make it airtight, he'd typed. Brother takes the fall. I take the crown. The kicker? He'd routed payments through a shell in Dad's name, Whitaker Steel/Fund. The kind of incentive accounting that skirts IRS audits. I printed it all at a Kinko's in Lakewood, stuffing copies into a waterproof pouch like contraband smokes. Lena's bar, the rusty anchor, squatted on a corner lot scarred by potholes and faded Eagles murals. Neon sign flickering, open like a liar's promise. She poured me a draft without asking PBR. Cold and bitter, then locked the door at last call. Flipping chairs onto tables with the efficiency of a woman who'd kneecapped her share of drunks.
Spill.
Jax. And make it good. Or you're scrubbing toilets till you remember your own name. Over shots of Tito's that burned going down. I laid it bare, the arrest, the evidence, the boardroom coup. Her laugh was a bark, short and sharp, as she lit a parliament, smoke curling toward the drop ceiling. Figures. He always talked big about destiny, like he was manifest destiny in wingtips. Left me high and dry when I miscarried, said it was bad timing for his career climb. Her eyes hardened, green as the river after rain. What's the play? You going Rambo? Or we playing chess?
Chess.
I decided. Rambo gets you dead. Chess gets you the king. We mapped it on napkins stained with ring marks, her mole in HR for internal memos. Me on the digital flank. Kez came next. A drive through Barberton's trailer parks. Past rusted swing sets and American flags whipping in the wind. His double-wide smelled of mothballs and menthol. The TV droning Fox News reruns in the corner. Remy, he croaked when I flashed Dad's old Zippo lighter. The one with the mill engraving. Or whatever's left of ya. I fed him the logs. He fed back bile. Jax cornered me last spring. After Harlan's checkup. Knew about the cancer before the doc did, eavesdropped like a rat. Rewrite the will, he says. Or the hazing tape goes public. Your pension. Your house. Poof. Kez had stalled, but Jax pushed, dangling a bonus that turned out to be a wiretap. The USB he handed over? Gold mine. Unredacted emails chaining Jax to the DA payoff. Plus audio of him boasting to a stripper about framing the nerd for good. Nights blurred into a haze of stakeouts and Red Bulls. Jax's knee acting up in the damp chill. I'd park the Chevy, boosted from impound with Lena's mechanic hookup, a block from the estate. Engine idling like a predator's growl. The mansion loomed, floodlights carving shadows from the manicured lawns. Security cams swiveling like unblinking eyes. Jax and my body moved through it like a ghost king, golf with investors at Firestone. Ribbon cuttings for new mill expansions. My loping gait now is swagger. One evening, I caught him on the patio, phone to ear. My voice low. Yeah.
Doc.
Up the dosage. Make sure Jax stays loopy. Court psych evals next week. The call was to a shrink on retainer, dosing me with antipsychotics via planted prescriptions. Controversial? Hell yes, tampering with a sibling's sanity for leverage. But Jax didn't stop at pills, he escalated, hiring muscle from the Teamsters' old guard. Ex-cons with knuckles like hams. They tailed me sloppy, one clipped my bumper on I-480. Forcing the Chevy into a spin-out across 3 lanes. I bailed into the scrub, heart slamming, and circled back to ram their Crown Vic off the shoulder. No plates, No names. But the message, back off. Or we bury you. Lena pulled strings for a burner arsenal, prepaid cells, a Glock 19 she'd found behind the bar. Ohio's concealed carry lacks as a politician's morals. I trained in abandoned lots off the flats, popping cans with Jax's steady trigger finger, the recoil jarring his bum knee. Morally gray? Abso-fucking-lutely. But when you wake up in a thief's skin, lines blur faster than brake lights in rain. The real gut punch came mid-October. Dad's hospice update via Kaz's nurse contact, stage 4. Weeks if lucky. Jax had cut visits short, too busy saving the empire, while I exiled, smuggled in under cover of night, posing as an orderly in scrubs swiped from Good Samaritan. His room reeked of wilted lilies and morphine drip, monitors beeping a dirge. Dad's eyes, milky but sharp, locked on Jax's face, my infiltrator's mask. Son, he rasped, hand trembling toward the four-stand. I leaned in, voice cracking in his timbre. It's me, Dad. Remy.
He
switched us. Stole everything. A tear tracked down his cheek, carving a path through the stubble. Knew it. Always knew Jax was hollow. He pressed a key into my palm, safe deposit box. Downtown bank. Truth's there. End it. Then he slept, chest rattling like loose change. The box yielded the unaltered will, notarized pre-betrayal, plus a letter, Dad's confession to the hazing hush, absolving me, damning Jax. You carried my sins.
Boy.
Time you shed, Em. I wept then, silent and ugly. In the vault's sterile hush, grief for the father I lost twice, rage for the brother who'd poisoned the well. Climax brewed as the reading neared, storm clouds massing over Lake Erie like divine judgment. Jax doubled security, paranoia cracking his facade. Lena's mole caught him raging in a conference call. My voice a whip. Find that imposter and bury him in paperwork. Commitment papers.
Now.
But he slipped, boasted to his intern Flame about the safe, assuming the combo dead with Dad. I hid it that gale force night. Wind howling banshee wails. Rain lashing the gutters like buckshot. Inside. The study was a time capsule. Dad's pipe ash on the blotter. Family portrait over the mantel mocking with frozen smiles. The safe clicked open. 18-25-76. Jax's birth year flipped. Tapes. Docs. A ledger of Jax's side hustles. Kickbacks from suppliers. Laundered through crypto wallets. And the gun. Dad's old .38. Loaded and oiled. Jax found me mid-rummage. Silhouette in the doorway. My body silhouetted against the hall light. Fight was biblical fists. Furniture. Fury. He swung wild. My stolen frame stronger but slower. I dodged. Countered with Jax's bar brawler hooks. Splitting my own lip. We rolled. Crashing into bookshelves. Tomes of corporate law thumping like accusations. You think you're me? He snarled. Pinning me. Breath hot on his neck. I built this. You were always the spare. I need his groin, my groin. Irony's cruel jab. Flipping him. The .38 skittering free.
No.
Jax. You're the spare. And spares get scrapped. I left him gasping. Storm raging outside as I melted into the night. Dawn's reading dawn dismal. The library packed with vultures in Brooks Brothers. My hack went live, voice booming. Truth time.
Folks.
Screens blazed evidence. Jax unraveled. lunging at the projector like a man possessed. Cops swarmed. Dad flatlined mid-mayhem. Justice? Or matricide by proxy? As sirens wailed, I pondered. In swapping skins, had I become the monster? Exile tastes like stale coffee and regret. The kind you choke down at dawn in a Greyhound station, watching blue hairs and runaways shuffle toward vague horizons. After the hospital dust-up, I rode the bus loop, Cleveland to Youngstown. Back again, paying cash. Head down. Jax's hoodie pulled low over eyes that still startled me in reflections. His irises were muddier than mine, flecked with gold like fool's pyrite, and every glance in a truck stop mirror was a gut check. Who the hell are you now? The neural bleed started subtle. Dreams at first, flashes of Jax's life bleeding into mine like ink in water. I jolt awake in a motel bunk, the sheets twisted, tasting blood from a phantom split lip, his from a 15 brawl at the flats. Memories not mine, the thrill of that first executive washroom snort, the hollowness after Mom's funeral when Dad's grief turned to rage, lashing out at us both. You're weak. Boy, he'd bellow at Jax, who internalized it like radiation, mutating into the schemer who saw family as a zero-sum game. Controversial as hell, pitying the devil who damned you, but it humanized the hate, made the revenge taste less sweet, more like ash. Lena became anchor, her bar a bunker amid the chaos. She'd text burners. Booth 3, 10 p.m. Bring the crazy. Our meets were ritual, her in a faded Steelers tee. Me nursing a root beer float, Jax's sweet tooth a bitch. Plotting over butcher paper maps of the estate's blind spots. She brought fire, connections to a ex-cop buddy, Mick, who'd lost his badge over a Whitaker donation to the wrong campaign chest. Jax leaned on me for dirt on Remy. Mick growled over whiskeys, his breath a peat bog. Framed him for the frame. Bastards got files on half the department. Mick's drop, a dossier on Jax's consulting gigs, extortion light. Squeezing suppliers for protection fees. Funnel back as campaign cash to keep the DA sweet. It chained to the hazing, the freshman's family. Silenced not just by settlement but threats. Drop it, or your green card's toast. The kid, now in a wheelchair in Toledo, ran a blog under pseudonym, railing against frat impunity. I reached out anonymous. Via Proton Mail, I know who pushed you. Want payback? His reply, name the time. I'll roll. Assembly grew. Kaz coordinating leaks to SEC watchdogs. Lena's cousin hacking estate cams for live feeds. I studied them like scripture, Jax in my skin. Pacing the study, barking at underlings. My gestures now his tics. He amped the charm offensive, charity galas at the Rock Hall, toasting family resilience with my easy grin, while privately, he torched bridges. Wiretaps, Mick's favor, caught him, double the PI budget. That fucker's in Jax's body. But he's Remy, hunt him like one. They closed in sloppy. Overconfident. A tail on Route 8. Black SUV boxing me in at a light. I gunned the Chevy onto the shoulder. Fishtailing through construction barrels. Horns blaring symphony. Lost M in the industrial sprawl. But not before clipping a mirror. Message received. Paranoia peaked. I ditched the car in a chop shop. Switching to a beater Kawasaki Lena sourced. Weaving Cleveland's grid like veins on a leaf. Nights. I'd crash in Kaz's trailer. The old man's snores a lullaby. His stories of Dad's rise a bomb. Harlan was steel.
Boy.
Bent, but never broke. You're his echo. Dad's decline accelerated. Chemo sapping him to bones and bitterness. My hospice infiltrations ramped, twice weekly. Scrubs and clipboard my camouflage. He'd whisper fragments. The swap project's genesis. A DARPA offshoot for enhanced interrogation, twisted by Jax into personal gain. He pitched it as therapy, Dad murmured. For beeping accusation. For us. Brothers bonding. Neural sync. Liar. The key he gave unlocked more than metal. A journal. Dad's scrawl detailing suspicions, Jax's late-night lab tinkering. Power surge coincidences. End the cycle. Remy. Or become it. The journal's revelations twisted the knife. Mom's death? Not suicide. Jax. High on coke during a fight. Swapped her Xanax with fentanyl-laced pills from a dealer buddy. Dad covered. Blaming accidental overdose, but the guilt corroded him, turning love to legacy obsession. I'd borne it unknowingly, the mistake of lax parenting pinned on me in family lore. Another Jax dodge. Rage boiled. But so did doubt. Was I avenging Dad? Or settling my own score? Controversial calculus. Family as collateral in personal vendetta. As November's chill bit. The reading date locked. November 15th. Estate Library. 10 a.m. Jax prepped like a prize fight. Purging files. Schmoozing heirs apparent. I countered with escalation. Anonymous drops to the journal. Teasing Whitaker bombshell. Reporters sniffed. One, a chain-smoking vet named Carla, bit via dead drop at a Perkins. Off record, she pressed over pie. Fork stabbing like a shiv. Give me the swap angle. I hedged. Prove the fraud first. Then the freak show. Her piece dropped midweek. Empire of lies. Forged finances rock Whitaker throne. Stock plunged 8 points. Board convened emergency. Jax's leadership questioned. He lashed out, hit on Lena's bar. Goons trashing the jukebox. Spray painting rat on the door. She called, furious. Your brother's unhinged. End this. Or I will. Mick pulled OT. Staking the wreckers to IDs. Jax's firm. Invoices approved in my hand. The safe break-in loomed. Weather gods aligning with a nor'easter forecast. Gusts to 60. Perfect cover. I prepped solo. Black ops gear from an army surplus in Bedford. Zip ties and duct tape for contingencies. Adrenaline hummed. Jax's heart, my temporary engine. Thumping erratic.
En route.
A bleed hit hard. Memory of Jax's kid. Me bandaging his scraped knee after a bike crash. Promising bros forever. Irony choked me. Betrayal's roots in boyhood bonds. Twisted by ambition's acid. Estate perimeter breached at 2 a.m. Fence cut. With bolt cutters. Range sheeting horizontal. I ghosted the grounds. Avoiding motion lights. Mud sucking at boots. Study window latched but brittle. Elbow through glass. Muffled by towel. Shards tinkling like chimes. Inside. Darkness absolute save desk lamps glow. Left on like a taunt. Safe hummed open. Contents spilling. Will. Tapes. Ledger. The .38 weighed heavy. Nickel cold as betrayal. Footsteps. Jax. Drawn by instinct or alarm. Confrontation exploded. Grapple.
Crash.
Primal. His strength, my strength, overpowered at first. Chokehold blurring vision. But Jax's body remembered street scraps. I twisted free. Landing blows that echoed wetly. Pinned him finally. Knee and chest. .38 to temple, my temple. Through his eyes. Why? Jax? Empire worth this. His laugh gurgled. Defiant. You were always Dad's favorite.
Soft.
I made us even. Truth sliced. Not just greed, but envy. Festering since sandbox days. I zip-tied him, gagged with his own tie, leaving him trussed amid the wreckage. Dawn crept, reading hours away. Van staged 2 blocks out. Cousin's rig, with projector link. Hack initiated, my voice. Amplified, revelations raining like confetti from hell. Library pandemonium, gasps, shouts. Jax bursting free, slipped ties in rage. Charging the screen. Cops materialized, mixed tip, cuffing him mid-lunge. My body thrashing like a landed marlin. Dad's wheeze cut through. My sons. 1 king. 1 corpse.
Collapse followed.
Monitors flatlining as we'll dissolved into litigation limbo. Post-storm. I ghosted east. Beater bike humming toward the lake. Bleeds intensified. Jax's fears now mine. Dreams of falling from that dorm roof. Was the swap a curse or gift? Empathy's double edge? Ending? Not triumph, but truce with shadows. Debatable victory. Throne reclaimed. But at what soul cost? Winter's grip tightened post-reading. Cleveland's lake effect snow blanketing sins like a cheap shroud. I holed up in a Parma flophouse. Radiator clanging like Morse code for get out, while the fallout snowballed. Jax's arrest dominated feeds, my face on every channel. Snarling from squad cars. This is a setup. Reporters swarmed the estate. Mics thrusting like bayonets. But the board stonewalled. Lawyers circling wagons. Carla's follow-ups dug deeper. Body swap conspiracy or corporate fiction? Skeptics scoffed. But whispers spread, neural experts anonymously confirming imprint reversals possible in overloads.
Me?
I played Phantom. Burner flipped weakly. Lena my lifeline. Cops grilled me, she texted. Said Jax lawyered up, claiming amnesia. Bail hearing tomorrow. I crashed her couch that night. The bar shuddered for Renas, air thick with paint fumes and unspoken what-ifs. We cracked a bottle of Makers, her toast slurred, to fallen kings. And the fool who toppled M. Sex followed, raw and reckless. Jax's body responding with unfamiliar urgency. Her nails raking unfamiliar skin. Morning after. Regrets haze. Was it connection or conquest? Controversial comfort. Using a stolen shell for solace. Kaz called mid-sip of diner hash. Boards fracturing. Remy. Your leaks hit home. SEC sniffing kickbacks. He couriered a flash drive. Exec emails. Jax's sign-off on creative accounting. It chained a bigger fish. Ties to a Cleveland mob remnant. Loans for mill expansions secured with blood oaths. Dad had known. Journal noting Jax's friends. Wrong side of tracks. The ledger from the safe detailed it. Shakedowns disguised as consulting. Victims including the hazing kid's uncle. A union rep persuaded to drop suit. I forwarded it all to Carla. Anonymous. Follow the money. It's dirtier than the river. Her exposé landed like a grenade. Whitaker Webb. From frat fiasco to mob money. Protests erupted. Steelworkers picketing the plant. Signs decrying corporate crooks. Snow melting under torchlight. Jax's bail denied. Judge cited flight risk. My body's lean frame now a jailhouse specter. Bleeds worsened. Nightmares of mom's last breath. Jax's hands, mine now, pressing the bottle. Her eyes accusing. Guilt echoed. Had I enabled him? Covering scraps. Forging alibis? The crime I bore? Not just hazing, but complicity in the family rot. Decision point loomed. Testify or vanish. Lena pushed court. Nail the bastard. For Dad. Kez hedged. Risky. Swap talk sounds nuts. Mick offered protection. Unmarked cruiser. Witness prep. I waited in a confessional booth at St. Malachie's. Jax's knees aching on the kneeler. Whispering sins not mine. Forgive us our trespasses. But whose? The priests murmur. Son. Redemption's in the light. Bullshit poetry. But it's stuck. Shadows breed monsters. Light exposes them. Hearing day dawned brittle. Federal courthouse, a fortress of marble and metal detectors. I slipped in back row. Ball cap low. Heart syncopating with the bailiff's gavel. Jax shuffled in. Orange jumpsuit clowning my frame. My eyes, darting feral. His lawyer. A silver fox from Voris. Spun gold. My client. Victim of identity theft and assault. Neural anomaly. Your honor, experts attest. Gasps rippled. Carla scribbled furious. Prosecution countered with evidence avalanche. Logs. Tapes. Ledger. Mr. Whitaker orchestrated fraud. Endangerment. Manslaughter adjacent. Jax testified. Voice, my voice, cracking artful. Remy's obsessed. Swapped us to destroy me. Jury leaned in. Morbid fascination. My turn. Stand or skulk. Adrenaline surged. I bolted row. Badge flashing, McPlant. Voice booming. Objection, perjury. Chaos. Deputies lunging. Jax's eyes widening recognition. You, he roared. Lunging across rail.
Taser pop.
He crumpled, my body convulsing like a glitch. Interrogation suite afterward. Feds. Suits crisp as fresh bills. Grilling over coffee that tasted like battery acid. Remy Whitaker?
Or Jax?
I peeled off the cap, letting Jax's features tell. Both. Neither. He stole my life. I'm taking it back. Neural scans ordered. Confidential. But leaks confirmed. Imprint crossover. Headlines screaming sci-fi heist. Brothers body battle. Public erupted. Forums ablaze. Karma's a bitch. Versus. Framed or fraudulent. Trial blurred months. Testimony marathons. Me in witness protection. Lena visiting with contraband hoagies. Kaz zooming from Florida, relocated on pension. Jax unraveled. Outbursts. Delusions. My body wasting under stress. Twist dropped mid-prosecution. DNA deep dive. Mitochondrial markers proving Jax's tissues matched Remy's profile. Swap irrefutable. Jury gasped. Judge sealed it. But verdict loomed guilty on all. Fraud. Conspiracy. Negligent homicide. Mom's pills retroactively pinned. Sentencing. 25. Minimum security upstate. My body his prison. As cuffs clicked, he whispered across the divide. You won the shell, Remy. But the soul? Mine's free. Bleed hit then, his final memory. Peace in the swap. Shedding Dad's shadow. Pity twisted the knife. Post-verdict. Inheritance thawed. Trusts dispersed. Me CEO in absentia. Board puppet by proxies. I claimed Seattle. Fog-shrouded escape. Starting a consultancy. Ethical steel sourcing. Irony's nod. Lena joined eventual. Her laugh thawing winters. Kaz retired golden. But endings debate. Victory hollow. Swap's echo haunting. Jax's darkness in my veins. My light in his cell. Happy? Tragic? Readers call. In America's grind, revenge rebuilds, but scars linger eternal. Epilogues aren't tidy in the Rust Belt, they're frayed edges, threads pulling at the seams of what was. A year post-sentencing, I stood on Whitaker Mill's catwalk, the Cuyahoga churning below like a serpent uncoiling old grudges. The plant hummed reborn green retrofits. Union deals fair as a handshake, my signature on the blueprints, even if the face signing was Jax's. Weathered now by trials and time. Board meetings via hologram. Lena, at my side in the corner office, her hand on my knee under the table, grounding the surreal. The leads faded to whispers, Jax's laugh in quiet moments, his fear of heights spiking when I eyed ledges. Therapy, mandatory. Ironic, dug it out, a shrink in a tweed blazer. Probing identity dissonance. You're Remy in Jax's vessel, she'd say. Notepad flipping like judgment. Embrace the hybrid. Bullshit shrink speak. But it's stuck, hybrid hell. Forging strength from fracture. Controversial therapy. Meds muting the echoes, but numbing the fire that fueled the fight. Jax wrote from Sing Sing. Letters smuggled via mixed contacts, block print, online paper. My handwriting mocking. Brother. The swap was mercy. Your soul's too pure for what Dad bred. Mine? Fits the cage. I burned most, but one lingered. Confession to Mom's death. Raw remorse. Thought it'd quiet her nagging. Quiet everything. Forgiveness?
Nah.
Understanding? Maybe. Mailed back a photo, us kids. Fishing the river. Grins unscarred. Fish or cut bait.
Jax.
Where Whitaker steel, bend. Don't break. Public faded. Scandal to sidebar. Body Brothers punchline on late-night reruns. Carla's book deal netted a Netflix pitch, gritty docudrama. Me consulting anonymous. Lena bloomed boss. Anchor franchised. Pierogies going national. Kaz, fishing Florida Keys. Postcards of tarpon leaps. Dad's grave. Under a steel obelisk. I visited spring, lilies fresh. Wind off the valley carrying mill smoke. Cycle ended. Old man. Or just rebooted. Twist Shadow, the swap's architect. The Ukrainian coder. Surfaced in Fed's net. Extradited. Spilling Jax's web. But deeper. Dad's project? DARPA Black Ops. Test subjects including street kids volunteered for mapping trials. Jax knew. Leveraged it for the overload hack. My fall? Collateral in a larger game. Government ghosts circling. NDAs eternal. Debatable legacy. Empire purified. Or Pandora's box cracked. Seattle suited. But Cleveland called roots like rebar. Unyielding. Lena and I wed quiet. Justice of the peace in a salmon sunset. Her in jeans. Me in Jax's old Levi's. Vows. In sickness.
Swap.
Or steal. Laughter followed. Real and rare. Kid came eventual, a boy. Blue eyes like mine original. Named Harlan for the fighter. Final reflection. Porch swing creaking. Revenge rebuilt. But at what forge? Jax rots redeemed. Perhaps I thrive tainted. Happy ending? For some. By tragic? For the ghosts. America's promise. Rise from rust. But pay the toll in blood and doubt. Smile through it. Dad's lesson. Don't you know?